All right, well, I want to say thank you to all the speakers tonight because I've certainly learned a lot about how I can defend myself from zombies. My name is Edward Downs. I'm from the Department of Communication, and I want to talk a little bit about zombies and video games. But before I get started, I've got a couple questions. By the sound of your applause, how many people in here like to play video games? Applause. Okay. I got a second question, and this is usually a little bit more divisive. How many people in this room are gamers? All right, there's a couple. I see a bunch of people hiding in the back. All right. Well, for those of you who didn't clap the second time around, I want you to look around the room and find out who those gamers are because you're going to want to know them later in the event of a zombie apocalypse. I want to first talk a little bit about zombie as a genre. In the last 45 years of video game history, we have well over 100 zombie video games and franchises. We could go back to 1984 and look at one of the earliest zombie video games called Zombie, released for the ZX Spectrum in the old 8-bit era. And then, of course, there are the games that people know and love that are very familiar with all of their different iterations from today. Of course, Resident Evil by Capcom. There's, of course, Dead Island by Techland. There's the Left 4 Dead franchise by Turtle Rock Studios and Valve Corp. And the also very important local skin for that, Left 4 Duluth, where you can kill zombies next to some of Duluth's local landmarks. So you can play Left 4 Duluth. There is, of course, no list would be complete if we didn't give a nod to zombie mode from the Call of Duty series. And, of course, the more family-friendly Plants vs. Zombies, which is really kind of an addicting game that PopCap has put out. At least I know it has been for me. So these are some of the games and genres you can play, but what does gameplay look like? We're very fortunate to have had some people that have done the work, talked to people who play video games, and been able to break out some statistics about what gameplay looks like. Breaking down gameplay by biological sex, female gamers report playing about 44 minutes per day on weekdays, that would be Monday through Friday, and male gamers play slightly more, about 58 minutes per day on weekdays, Monday through Friday. We average those two together, we get about 51 minutes per day. On weekends, people have a little bit more leisure time and time to play more games. Female gamers report playing about 64 minutes on weekend days, and male gamers report playing about 97 minutes on weekend days, Saturday, Sunday. Average those two things together, we get about 80 minutes per day. Now, this is going to come back, but there's something that we have to address. One of the things, Dr. Carlson brought it up early about zombies and social media. One of the questions that people are asking is, does this much gameplay, this is actually what's responsible for making people zombies today? I would argue that, in fact, they're not turning gamers into zombies, but they are actually doing something very important for us. Let's talk through the logistics of that. If people play zombie video games, then Dr. Bandura would have something very important to say about what people are learning from those experiences. Dr. Bandura, in his social cognitive theory, identified 4 processes that have to occur that govern how people learn through modeled behavior. And he identified these processes as being attention, retention, production, and motivation. Now, playing zombie video games, or any video games for that matter, lend themselves to these different processes. First of all, attention. If you think about how video games are different than actual television or more passive media, video games are interactive. And I've never heard of anybody who sits down in front of a game console, picks up a controller, and then looks someplace else or doesn't pay attention. So interactivity makes this medium very good for learning because people are paying attention. If you add to that, that there's lots of color, there's lots of sound, there are generally attractive models, or in the case of video games, zombie video games, unattractive models, people generally pay attention to what's on the screen in front of them. But that's not enough to learn a modeled behavior. Bandura says you also have to have the ability to retain information through the process of retention. And what this means, again, video games are very good at Because first of all, people are coding information through both visual and auditory senses. So they're processing that information two ways, storing it in two different parts of the brain, easier to retrieve later on when they need the information. There's also another really interesting thing about video games when it comes to retention, and that's repetition. I don't know anybody who can sit down in front of a game and just play through start to finish without losing lives or having to repeat levels to remember where stimulus is or how to work their fingers on the keys and the buttons in order to be successful. So repetition becomes a hallmark of retention. Dr. Bandura would say this is still not enough. Just the ability to pay attention and retain information is still not enough to learn to model behavior. You have to be able to produce that behavior. So when we have instances where people actually get to physically rehearse, let's say killing zombies, they have to be able to take those actions that they learn in the game environment and be able to recreate them in the actual environment. And motion control games that we have, since we've had the Wii and other types of devices that allow us to get up and move our bodies, allow us the ability to physically reproduce those actions in the real world. Finally, the last thing that Dr. Bandura says is important is motivation. And games, again, are uniquely positioned to motivate people to continue to do what they do in their virtual environments, right? Especially when it comes to zombie video games, we get things like higher scores. You get to save your, perhaps save your name and get bragging rights. You get bigger guns. You get to blow up more zombies. You get better body armor. All of these things motivate people to continue to play these types of games. Now, I want to go back to some of these numbers here for a minute because they become very revealing. We looked at the averages, the amount of time that people play. And if we look at the averages per work week across our Monday through Friday, males and females average 255 minutes of gameplay Monday through Friday. And those same males and females average 161 minutes on the weekend. This leaves us with a grand total of 416 average minutes per week from an average gamer spent in front of the screen playing zombie video games, let's say. Now, there's an awful lot of violence in zombie video games. Even some of the more tame ones like Plants vs. Zombies, the whole idea is to kill zombies, right? So how much violence? Can we actually quantify the amount of violence that's in these video games? Yes, and we've got some great researchers who have done some content analytic work that have given us these numbers. Content analysis by Smith, Lachlan, and Tamburini found that T and M rated games, teen and mature rated games, which most zombie video games are, have 4.59 acts of violence per minute. So let's say that 4.59 zombies get killed per minute in a video game. Now, I don't know about you, but the zombie games that I play, I know there are certainly more than 4.59 acts of violence per minute. But we're going to go with this because it's a very conservative number. This means that the actual zombie mortality rate that we see from an average player per week turns to be about 1,900 zombies killed per week, 7,637 zombies killed every month. And over the course of a year, from an average gamer, we get more than 91,000 zombies killed every year. Now, one of the questions that comes up then is, who is going to protect us from the zombie apocalypse? Well, I've got some ideas about that. It's going to be this guy right here. It's the guy that's playing those zombie video games. It's that gamer that's killing all those zombies on their TV. Why? I'll tell you why. Because of Dr. Bandura's 4 processes: attention, retention, production, and motivation. This person who has been playing those video games has paid attention to killing zombies 92,000 times. They're able to remember how to kill zombies in different ways because they've killed 92,000 different zombies. They're able to physically recreate the action of killing zombies because they've rehearsed it 92,000 times. And of course, they must be motivated, otherwise they wouldn't be able to kill zombies 92,000 times. So, in light of this testimony, I would offer the opinion that when we play these video games, zombie video games are actually basic training, and that today's gamers are tomorrow's defenders from the coming zombie apocalypse. Thank you very much.